Hello dear viewers, welcome to our channel Brief and Knowledge. Viewers, today we have brought such an essential video in which we'll learn 10 commandments of Allah, which is the summary of the Prophet's messages and the Holy Quran. These commandments were also revealed in Christianity and Judaism, and Allah revealed them in Quran as well. So let's start the video in the name of Allah out of any late. But if you want more knowledgeable contents, so subscribe our channel and press the bell icon for latest and knowledgeable notifications. In the name of Allah, the entirely merciful, the most gracious. And your Lord has decreed that you not worship except Him, and to parents good treatment, whether one or both of them reach old age while with you. Say not to them so much as "Uff," and do not repel them, but speak to them a noble word. This verse is divided in two commands. The first one is about the monotheism, and the other is about the way of behaving with parents, the ethics. Viewers, owing to monotheism is the structural faith in Islam. That's why Almighty Allah placed it on the top of the list in 10 commandments. For the human being, God is everything. He is his creator, Lord and sustainer. But God remains in the unseen. He does not come before man to gain recognition. Now this is a definite question, that why Allah mentioned 1/3 of Quran about monotheism. Answer is when a woman can't endure association of her husband with other women, neither man can. So how can we suppose to Allah, God of the heavens and the earth and everything, that He would endure association with Him? Rather, He decreed in Quran in chapter 39, verse number 65, and it was already revealed to you and to those before you that if you associated anything with Allah, your work, your deeds would surely become worthless, and you would surely be amongst the losers. So, association with Allah is the most sensitive issue in the sight of Allah. And to parents good treatment, whether one or both of them reach old age while with you. Say not to them as much as "Uff," and do not repel them, but speak to them a noble word. Regarding the parents, that was mentioned instantly after the monotheism command. Parents do everything to nurturing their kids better. They do everything for their children's better future. In other words, they sacrifice or dedicate their lives to their children. So when we are young, so our parents are in their old age. So Allah has stricken to our instinct to be patient and ought to behave generously with them. Parents have no material power over their children. When the children treat their parents well, they do it of their own free will and not because of any material pressures. This is the real test of man in the present world. Here he has to adopt the way of truth and justice without being forced to do so. He has to perform of his own free will and at his pleasure such deeds as he would if performed God appeared before him in all his omnipotence. Such voluntary action possesses a serious test for man. However, God has made it easy for man by His special grace. He does not test man with the severity of a master who becomes overly exercised about petty things. If a man is basically loyal to God, He excuses his petty lapses. If a man turns over a new leaf after doing something wrong, He pardons regardless of how great a sin he may have committed, and give the relative his right, and also the poor and the traveler, and do not spend wastefully. Indeed, the wasteful are brothers of the devils, and ever has Satan been to his Lord ungrateful. And if you must turn away from the needy awaiting mercy from your Lord which you expect, then speak to them a noble word. A man has a right to spend on himself whatever he earns by his own hard work. However, the Islamic law lays down that he should avoid the habits of a spendthrift. He should spend his wealth on actual necessities and not on vanity or display. Secondly, everyone must realize that others have a right to his earnings, be they relatives, neighbors, travelers, or needy persons. If one is to spend one's wealth according to the will and pleasure of God, one must first of all economize by refraining from pointless spending. Indeed, extravagance is a weapon used by Satan to induce one to neglect one's duties towards the poor and needy. And do not kill your children for fear of poverty. We provide for them and for you. Indeed, their killing is ever a great sin. It was the Lord who created all living creatures, and it was He who made provision for their sustenance. In view of this, man's action in killing anyone on the pretext of a lack of the means to survive amounts to committing a totally unjustifiable act. When God Himself undertakes the sustenance of all His creatures, nobody has the right to kill anybody for fear that another's continuing to exist will reduce his own chances of survival. It is we who provide for them and for you. Through these words, the thinking of man is directed towards construction rather than destruction. It is worth considering that if human beings at present can earn their livelihood, it is by their utilizing the productive resources provided by God. This will hold good for future generations also. And do not approach unlawful sexual intercourse. Indeed, it is ever an immorality, and it is evil as a way. Literally, do not go near adultery. One of the evils which God wants to root out completely is adultery or zina. So that is, adultery is such a great evil and is proof of such shamelessness that man should abstain even from its initial stages. Here, only a basic command has been given on this subject. Detailed orders have been given in chapter 24. And do not kill the soul which Allah has forbidden, except by right. And whoever is killed unjustly, we have given his here authority, but let him not exceed limits in the matter of taking life. Indeed, he has been supported by the law. The killing of anybody without the sanction of the Islamic law is totally prohibited, haram. One who is killed without the justification of the Islamic law must be regarded as having been wronged. In view of this, the surviving kin of the deceased have full rights over the killer. They may avenge the murder as per the law, or they may let the killer go after taking compensation from him, or they may forgive him altogether. According to Islamic law, the real claimants are the surviving kin of the dead person and not the government. The duty of the government is only to help the surviving kin to enforce their will. Murder is such a terrible crime that it is said in a tradition of the Prophet Muhammad that the killing of a human being is more undesirable than the annihilation of the whole world in the eyes of God. This principle notwithstanding, the surviving relatives of the murdered person have no right to commit any acts on the killer in the avenging of the murder. They may not, if the surviving relatives of the killed person commit any acts in avenging the murder. In this case, the government may step in to prevent this in exactly the same manner as it would have assisted them in securing their right to retributive justice or qisas. This reveals the beauty of Islam and the spirit of Islamic law. If a person, howsoever oppressed, wants to take revenge, he is allowed to do so only in proportion to the degree of oppression he has suffered. He is in no way allowed to take any action in excess of this. And do not approach the property of an orphan, except in the way that is best, until he reaches maturity and fulfill commitment. Indeed, the commitment is ever that about which one will be questioned. Whenever an orphan's property is entrusted to the next of kin, the orphan being underage or not having reached maturity, it is incumbent upon the relatives to keep the orphan's wealth intact, and as soon as he is able to understand, matters of profit and loss, to hand over to him his entire wealth. Keeping promises is a sign of nobility of character. One who makes a pledge but does not fulfill it is a worthless person before God and men. Literally, a pledge must be accounted for to God. These words make it quite clear that if one man makes a promise to another, it does not concern just the two of them. God actively participates in the capacity of the third party. One who breaks his pledge to someone weaker than himself should fear God, who is also present, for it is quite impossible to escape his wrath. And give full measure when you measure, and weigh with an even balance. That is the best way and best in result. Every kind of business in the world is based on weights and measures. Therefore, it has been ordained that weights and measures should be accurate. There are two aspects to this. First, it is in accordance with human dignity, for the giving of short weight is a debasement of character. Second great merit is that it gives a stimulus to business, as total trust is the foundation of commercial progress. Proper weight and measurement are a sine qua non for the establishment of good business relations in any given society. And do not pursue that of which you have no knowledge. Indeed, the hearing, the sight, and the heart. About all those one will be questioned. Qatada, one of the early commentators of the Quran, said, "Don't say I have seen when you have not seen. Don't say I have heard when you have not heard. And don't say I know when you do not know." One who fears to be called to account before God will never say anything without first verifying it. Man should use his eyes, ears, and brain for the purpose they were designed, and should talk of and act only upon such matters for which there is adequate evidence to warrant this. He should eschew all that is baseless. For example, bearing false witness, making false allegations, condemning someone on the basis of hearsay, justifying falsehoods merely on account of envy, placing credence on things that man does not know for sure because of his limitations. The ears, eyes, and mind are apparently under man's control, but these are, as it were, entrusted to him by God, and so it is a must for a man to utilize them according to God's will. Otherwise, he will be taken strictly to task for their misuse. And do not walk upon the earth exultantly. Indeed, you will never tear the earth, and you will never reach the mountains in height. Man, even with all the power given to him, cannot tear apart the ground on which he lives, while the sheer height of the mountains negates his every claim to greatness. This is a practical comparison illustrating the real status of man as opposed to the greatness of God. It emphasizes the fact that man should not be filled with pride in this world. He should tread the path of humility and submissiveness, and not that of pride and rebellion. Thanks for watching this knowledgeable video. If you haven't subscribed yet, so please subscribe our channel and press the bell icon and give your feedback in the comment section. Till next video, take care.